Hello everyone. In this video we look at the applications of the molecular orbital theory. Now when we talk about the molecular orbital theory, right, so we have discussed on the idea of molecular orbitals and what will be the energy level representation of the molecular orbitals, how do we fill electrons into the molecular orbitals. All these things we have covered in the first part video. So here we look at the applications of the molecular orbital theory. So one of the first application of the molecular orbital theory is that the electronic arrangement in the molecular orbitals will be able to provide insight on what is the stability of the molecules. Like if you look at the electrons in molecular orbitals, we have the electrons occupying either the bonding orbitals or the anti-bonding orbitals. So if the number of electrons which are occupying the bonding orbitals, because bonding orbitals means what, they'll have less energy and that will be associated with what, more stability. So if overall we have number of electrons more in the bonding orbitals than the anti-bonding orbitals, so if you are representing n subscript b with what, the number of electrons in bonding orbitals, and n subscript a for the number of electrons in anti-bonding orbitals. If the number of electrons in bonding orbitals is more than number of electrons in anti-bonding, right, then it means what, that particular molecule is basically stable. If the number of electrons in the bonding orbitals is lesser than the number of electrons in anti-bonding, it means what, that molecule is basically unstable. Even if it is equal, right, still we will consider it as what, unstable. So number of bonding electrons more than anti-bonding means what, this is the stability. Okay, number of bonding either less than or even equal to, that means what, those molecules will be what, basically unstable. So this is how we will be able to look at the stability of the molecules based on what is the total electrons present in the bonding orbitals and the anti-bonding orbitals. Now the same concept, right, can be understood even in a little bit more detailed manner by using the concept of bond order. So bond order, right, normally when we talk about the Lewis theory or the VSEPR theory or the valence bond theory. So in Lewis theory and the VSEPR theory, we talk about the number of electrons pair. One electron pair means single bond, two electron pairs are shared means double bond, three electron pairs are shared means triple bond, like that. Okay. In case of the valence bond theory, the overlapping of one set of atomic orbital will be the one single bond. We have two sets of atomic orbitals overlapping. In that we will see that the first will be a sigma bond and second will be a pi bond. If three sets of atomic orbitals are overlapping, first will be a sigma bond which will be head to head overlap, second and third will be what, the pi bonds. But when it comes to the bond order in the molecular orbital theory, we will be able to get it by using the number of electrons in the bonding orbitals and number of electrons in the anti-bonding orbitals. So bond order is defined as what, one half of the difference between number of electrons present in the bonding orbitals and number of electrons present in anti-bonding orbitals, means what, it will be half times of nb minus nb. So this is what is the bond order formula in relation to the number of electrons in the bonding orbitals and number of electrons in the anti-bonding orbitals. Now the thing is, if you look at the situation that we discussed before, that pertains to stability. So what did we say, number of electrons in bonding is more than anti-bonding means we will see what, the bond order will be positive. In that case the bond order will be coming as what, positive. If the number of electrons in the bonding orbitals is less than or equal to the number of electrons in anti-bonding, then we will see that either the bond order is 0 or bond order will be what, negative, which means in those particular cases what you will observe, you will be able to observe that the molecules will be what, unstable. So we will typically say those molecules do not exist, like that. So wherever we have bond order either 0 or negative, those molecules will not be existing. So this is about how we can comment on the stability or existence of molecule based upon the bond order. And here, unlike the Lewis theory or the VSEPR theory, where we will only be able to explain the existence of a single bond or a double bond or a triple bond. So we will be able to explain only the cases where bond order is equal to 1 or 2 or 3 in the molecular orbital theory, right? Since it is about the idea of bond order derived from the number of electrons in the bonding orbitals and number of electrons in the anti-bonding orbitals. Here even fractional bond orders like 1.5, 2.5, they will also be accepted, because here the bond order has not got the same significance as we will see in the case of the Lewis theory or the VSEPR theory, where one shared pair of electrons means single bond, two shared pair of electrons means double bond, three shared means triple bond, like that. That is the significance we have in those two theories. But here there is no such significance, so even the fractional bond orders will be acceptable. Now look at this question. Calculate the bond order of C2 and N2. We have diatomic carbon, it's a molecule, and diatomic nitrogen, it's another molecule. So we have to calculate the bond order. So how do you get the bond order? First, let us look at the number of electrons. In diatomic carbon, each carbon has got 6 electrons. Remember, here we have to count total number of electrons. So carbon, each of them is having 6. So totally what is it? 12. Nitrogen, each of them is having 7 total electrons. 7 plus 7 is what? 14. Now when we look at the energy level diagram of the molecular orbitals, up to 14 electrons count, we have one order. What is it? Sigma 1s, sigma star 1s, sigma 2s, sigma star 2s. Then pi 2px and pi 2p degenerate. Then comes sigma 2pz. Then pi star 2px, pi star 2py, then sigma star 2pz. If it is more than 14 means these two will interchange. We discussed about it. Okay. But here that is not our no question. We are good with this arrangement. Why? Because both these molecules, right? C2 has got total number of 12 electrons. N2 has got total number of 14 electrons, which means we are up to 14 only. So look at this for C2, right? What is it that we can say? Sigma 1s we can give 2 electrons. Then sigma star 1s we can give 2 electrons. Sigma 2s we can give 2 electrons. Sigma star 2s we can give 2 electrons. Totally how many are over? So we have given totally so far 8. Okay, so totally 8 are over. 12 we are having, right? Then comes what? Pi 2px, which is degenerate with pi 2py. First we will have to give them 1 electron each, and then we will pair them. By now, right, we have exhausted our 12 electrons. You can see we are done with the 12 electrons of the C2 molecule. Now what is it that we are trying to find? Bond order, right? Bond order means what? Half into the number of electrons in bonding orbitals. What are bonding orbitals? Look at this. I'll just underline. This is a bonding orbital. This is a bonding orbital. Then these two are what? Bonding orbitals. So totally what is it? 2 plus here 4. What is it totally? It is 8 minus the anti-bonding will be what? Here and here 4. So what is it? Half into 4, that is equal to what? 2. So the bond order in case of C2 molecule will be what? 2. Now if you look at the next molecule, which is what? N2. So we will be also able to find what is the bond order of N2 using similar concept. So first thing is what? We will have to represent the electronic configuration in the molecular orbitals. Then we will use the formula for the bond order. What is the formula for the bond order? Half into number of electrons in bonding orbitals minus number of electrons in anti-bonding orbitals. Look at this. Now we are going to go for the N2. Total count is what? 14 electrons. Sigma 1s will give 2. Sigma star 1s will give 2 electrons. Sigma 2s will give 2 electrons. Sigma star 2s will give 2 electrons. Then pi 2px, which will be degenerate with pi 2py, will give 2 electrons, 2 electrons. First we will fill them with 1 electron, then we will pair them. So totally we can see what is happening. Totally we have done with 12. Now we are having 2 more electrons. Where they will go? Sigma 2pz will get the 2 electrons. Totally 14 are over. Now we want to find the bond order. What is the bond order formula? Half into number of electrons in bonding orbitals. Look at it. We will underline here. This is the bonding orbital. Okay. So then these two degenerate orbitals are what? Bonding. This is also bonding. Totally 2 plus 2, which is 4. 4 plus here we have 4, which is 8 plus 2 10, 10 minus, what about the anti-bonding here 2, here 2, 4. So look at it, half into 6, what is it, 3. Remember, even as per the Lewis theory, right, what do we expect in the diatomic nitrogen? We'll expect there is a triple bond. So we can see there will be a correlation. So this is how we are going to find the bond order. Now look at this one. Now this is a very standard question. Why diatomic helium cannot exist? We'll see that H2 will exist, but helium 2 cannot exist. Helium only will have existence as the monoatomic gas. We'll see why it cannot exist as helium 2. So we can answer this by using the molecular orbital theory concept. Look at it. If you have the energy level representation of the molecular orbitals up to 14 electrons. See, helium has got how many electrons? Each helium has got 2 electrons. Helium 2 means what? Totally we will be having 4 electrons. If at all helium 2 molecule is existing, right, we will be having totally, what is the count of electrons? 4 electrons. Now we have to arrange them. So how do we arrange them? Sigma 1s will give 2 electrons. Then sigma star 1s will give 2 electrons. Now let us go for the bond order formula. What is it? Half times number of electrons in bonding orbitals 2 minus number of electrons in anti-bonding. Sigma star 1s is what? Anti-bonding, right? So what is it? 0. Remember what we said? When the bond order is coming as 0 or when the bond order is coming as negative, it means what? Those molecules are unstable and they would not be having existence. Look at another question. What is the bond order of Li2? So if you have 2 atoms of lithium forming a molecule, the question is what will be the bond order? Now again we'll go with the energy level representation of the molecular orbitals up to 14 electrons. So lithium, each lithium atom has got 3 electrons, the total number of electrons. 2 lithium atoms are there, means totally 6 electrons are there. So we have to arrange the 6 electrons. So look at it, how are we going to arrange? Sigma, so we'll have to write the electronic arrangement. Sigma 1s will give 2 electrons, then sigma star 1s will give 2 electrons, then sigma 2s will give 2 electrons. That is it, over. 6 electrons are over. Now what is the bond order formula? What is the bond order formula? It will be what? Half into number of electrons in bonding orbitals minus number of electrons in anti-bonding orbitals, correct? So look at what is going to happen. It will be what? Half into, what is the number of electrons in bonding orbitals? Here 2, here 2, totally what is it? 4, minus what is the number of electrons in anti-bonding? Here 2. So half into 2, which is equal to what? 1. So in this molecule, if it is existing, right, what will be the bond order? It can exist, because what is the bond order here? 1. Only when the bond order is 0 or negative, those particular molecules will be unstable and they will not have independent existence. Now we look at another question, the bond order of O2. So this O2, diatomic oxygen molecule, is a very important one in terms of the entire molecular orbital theory study. So for O2, right, more than 14 electrons, what is the order? Remember, the sigma 2pz will have a lower energy than the degenerate pi 2px and pi 2py. Okay, so we'll have to arrange. So here we'll get what? Each oxygen atom has got 8 electrons. 8 plus 8 is what? 16. So look at it. Sigma 1s will give 2. Here 2, 2, 2. So totally 10 are over. Here we can give 2. Here we can give 2. Totally 14. Now pi star 2px and pi star 2py are what? Degenerate. Means we have to give 1 electron here, 1 electron here. Degenerate orbitals, when we are filling, we have to follow the Hund's rule. Correct? So totally 16 are over. So this arrangement, right, of O2 will basically tell us what? The O2 molecule will be having the unpaired electrons. In fact, we discussed about this in the previous video also, where the molecular orbital theory, one of the success factors is that it is able to explain how O2 will be able to have paramagnetic nature. In fact, in this video also, in a little while we will discuss about it. But here the question is what? Bond order. So how do you get the bond order? Bond order will be equal to what? Half times, that's the formula, right? Half times number of electrons in bonding orbitals. Look at this. This is a bonding, this is a bonding, then this is a bonding. These two are bonding. So which means what? 2 plus 2 plus 2, totally 6. 6 plus 4, 10. So 10 minus, what about the anti-bonding? This is anti-bonding, this is anti-bonding. These two orbitals are what? Anti-bonding. So totally how much we have? 2 plus 2, 4, 4 plus 2, 6. So what is it? Half into 4, which is what? 2. Remember, normally as per the Lewis theory, what do we predict? In the O2 molecule, we'll have a double bond between both these oxygen atoms. So what is the bond order we predict? We'll predict the bond order to be equal to what? 2. And that is what we will see as per the molecular orbital theory also. That's what we will see as per the molecular orbital theory. Okay. So this is what is the concept of bond order from the molecular orbital theory. The thing is, whenever we have a higher bond order, so this is something that we have analyzed when we talked about the bond characteristics. When the bond order is high means what? If you look at it in terms of the Lewis theory concept, bond order high means what? You are moving from a single bond to a double bond or a triple bond, like that. So when the bond order is high, it means what? The bond length will be less. This is an observation that is done even from the experimental data. So you will see that if you have a carbon-carbon single bond, carbon-carbon double bond, carbon-carbon triple bond. So carbon-carbon triple bond, it will be what? Having the least bond length. Okay, so whenever we want to compare the bond length to the bond order, right, what is the relation? Wherever the bond order is high, the corresponding bond length will be what? Least. Okay, and when the bond order is high, the amount of energy required to break the bond also will be more. Means, if you have a carbon-carbon triple bond, to break the carbon-carbon triple bond will require more amount of energy than breaking the carbon-carbon double bond, than breaking carbon-carbon single bond. Means wherever the bond order is high, it means what? In that particular place, the bond energy or bond enthalpy also will be what? High. So whenever we are getting questions on compare the bond energy or compare the bond length, how do we answer those questions from the molecular orbital theory? So we'll answer those questions by using the bond order. Bond order higher means what? Bond length will be lesser. Bond order high means what? Bond energy also will be correspondingly high. So that is how we will be able to answer the questions. Now the important part of the molecular orbital theory is that it is able to explain the magnetic nature of some molecules like O2. So whenever we look at a molecule having unpaired electrons, right, in the molecular orbitals, it will be having paramagnetic nature. And if there are no unpaired electrons, means what? It will be diamagnetic. And this is the broad classification. So paramagnetic is where when we have the unpaired electrons, that particular molecule or the ion will have what? Paramagnetic nature. If there are no unpaired electrons, means what? That particular molecule or ion will have diamagnetic nature. And if you look at what is the extent of magnetic nature, more number of unpaired electrons means the paramagnetic nature is going to be more. Like you see, for example, there is a molecule with one unpaired electron and another molecule with two unpaired electrons. The one with the two unpaired electrons is going to have more paramagnetic nature. So that is how we look at the dependency of magnetic nature on the number of unpaired electrons. Now if you look at the relation, right, obviously what is the relation? More the number of unpaired electrons means what? More will be the magnetic nature. So magnetic nature means here we look at it as what? The paramagnetic nature. If there are no unpaired electrons, means that is what we call as diamagnetic nature. So in solid state +2 chapter, right, we will talk about even further types of magnetic nature. Okay, so even we will talk about ferromagnetic nature. Okay, and other different types of magnetic nature we will be able to study a little bit more detail about it. But at this level, right, it is sufficient if we know that broadly these two categories are there. One is the diamagnetic, no unpaired electrons, paramagnetic, unpaired electrons, and more the number of unpaired electrons, right, more will be the magnetic nature. So if you have molecules having fractional bond order, this is a very interesting relation. So we'll look at it with examples also. Whenever we have molecules with fractional bond order, those molecules are even ions. So when we say molecules, we are including also what? Ions. The molecules are ions having fractional bond order, right? They are going to be definitely paramagnetic. You know why? In that you are definitely going to have unpaired electrons. The moment you are getting a fractional bond order means you are going to have unpaired electrons. That is the reason why you can blindly remember it. What is it? all molecules or ions, wherever we have the bond order to be what? Fractional, definitely they will be what? Having unpaired electrons, which means they will have paramagnetic nature. We look at examples. Okay, so this is a very standard question as we've been talking about it. Show that O2 is paramagnetic in nature based on the molecular orbital theory. So the previous theories, which are the Lewis theory or the VSEPR theory or the valence bond theory, all of them, they predict that O2 will not have any unpaired electrons. They predict that O2 is actually what? Diamagnetic. That is what those theories predict. But experimentally what is observed is O2 is in fact paramagnetic. So the theory that will explain this is the molecular orbital theory. Now look at it. O2, already we have solved a question on bond order. So O2 totally will have how many electrons? 16 electrons. Each oxygen has got 8. 8 plus 8, 16. Now this is the energy level representation for more than 14 electrons. Look at it. Sigma 1s will give 2. Here 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 2 and 2 degenerate orbitals. Totally how much we have filled? 10 plus 2, 14 are over. Now 1 here in the pi star 2px, 1 in the pi star 2py. Because these are what? Degenerate orbitals. We have to fill them by following the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. Now the thing is, when we look at this electronic arrangement, right? By the way, we can also write it like what? This sigma 1s 2 electrons and sigma star 1s 2 electrons, we can call it as what? Kk. So Kk structure means what? Sigma 1s 2 electrons, sigma star 1s 2 electrons. Okay. So this is what is the electronic arrangement in the molecular orbitals. So what we can clearly see is in pi star 2px and pi star 2py. In pi star 2px and pi star 2py, there are unpaired electrons. How many unpaired electrons are there? 2 unpaired electrons. So the paramagnetic nature of the diatomic oxygen molecule is because of these unpaired electrons. We'll go to the next question. Which of them is paramagnetic among the following? What are the given molecules? H2, Li2, B2. So this is all. H2 will have how many electrons? Totally 2 electrons. Li2 means each lithium has got 3 electrons. Li2 means totally 6 electrons. Okay. B2, boron. So what is the atomic number of boron? Where the boron will come? Hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron. So what is it? Atomic number 5. So 2 borons means what? 10 electrons. Now we will go for the molecular orbital electronic configuration. So we will just start with one by one. So we have the energy level representation of the molecular orbitals based on the the criteria. What is it? The number of electrons up to 14. So you can see all of them, right? They have a number of electrons less than 14 in fact. Now H2 we'll talk about first. So H2 means what is it? 2 electrons. What is it? Sigma 1s will give 2 electrons. That's it. Does it have any unpaired electrons? No. Which means what it is? Diamagnetic. Clearly. What is it? It's diamagnetic. Okay. Now let us talk about the Li2. Li2 means what? 6 electrons. So sigma 1s will give 2 electrons. This is Li2. Sigma star 1s will give 2 electrons. Then sigma 2s we have to give 2 electrons. That's it. Over 6 electrons. Does it have any unpaired electrons? No. So this is also what? Diamagnetic. So that is how we will be able to conclude whether it is a diamagnetic or a paramagnetic. Now the last one is what? B2. So B2, look at it. It has got how many electrons? 10 electrons. Sigma 1s we have to give 2 electrons. Sigma star 1s we have to give 2 electrons. Then sigma 2s we have to give 2 electrons. Sigma star 2s we have to give 2 electrons. After giving 2 electrons into sigma star, right, look at where we are getting into pi 2px and pi 2py. What are those? These are the degenerate. Means we have to give pi 2px 1 electron, pi 2py 1 electron. So these are the degenerate orbitals. We have to give 1 here and 1 here. Look at it. We will give 2 here, 2 here, 2, 2. Degenerate means we have totally 2 electrons now. We have to give 1 here and 1 here. Hund's rule we have to follow while filling electrons in degenerate. Now clearly we can see pi 2px and pi 2py, right? They have what? Unpaired electrons, which means what? B2, just like O2, will have what? Paramagnetic nature. So what is the question they are asking? Which of them is paramagnetic among the following? So what is the answer for this? It is B2 that will be having paramagnetic nature. What about H2 and Li2? They both will have diamagnetic because they don't have any unpaired electrons. Look at this one. This is another interesting question. Which among the following is diamagnetic? Diamagnetic means what? No unpaired electrons. Diamagnetic means what? No unpaired electrons. So we have to find out which of them is having no unpaired electrons. For this, right, again, if you look at these species, O2 will have totally how many electrons? 16. O2 plus means from 16 we removed 1, 15. O2 minus means we added 1, it becomes 17. O2 2 minus means we added 2, it becomes 18. So all of them are what? More than 14 electrons. So we will go with what? This arrangement: sigma 1s, sigma star 1s, sigma 2s, sigma star 2s. Sigma 2pz will be less than pi 2px and pi 2p. These are the degenerate. Then pi star 2px, pi star 2py degenerate. Then sigma star 2pz. Okay, so this one we have to remember: less than 14 and more than 14. Up to 14 we have one order. Up to 14 we have one order. Up to the 14 electrons means less than or equal to 14 we have one order. What is that order? Only one small difference. What is it? After 14, more than 14, what do you see? Sigma 2pz will have a lesser energy than the degenerate pi 2px, pi 2py. Up to 14 we will see that these two will be interchanged. Pi 2px and pi 2py will be having a lesser energy than sigma 2pz. That is what we will have in the case of up to 14 electrons. Okay, so up to means what? Including 14, including molecules like N2, right? We will have to follow that order. Okay, now look at it. So what are we having? O2. So Kk means what? This is the arrangement: sigma 1s 2 electrons and sigma star 1s 2 electrons. That is what we will generally represent as what? Kk. Okay, so look at it. What do we have? Sigma 1s will give 2 electrons, sigma star 1s 2 electrons. Already O2 we analyzed in the previous thing also. So finally what we will have? Pi star 2px will have 1 electron unpaired, pi star 2py will have 1 unpaired electron. That is why we have seen in the previous example also, right? O2 will have what? Clearly paramagnetic nature. What about O2 plus means? O2 plus means we are now filling 15 electrons. So you will see that when you are filling, right, only that pi star 2px will give 1 electron. So here we will give 1 electron. We will not be having electron to be given for pi star 2py. In O2 means 16 are there. So we will give 1 electron here also. 1 here, 1 here. But since only 15 means pi star 2px only will have 1 electron. You can see still this is also having what? Unpaired electron. What about O2 minus 17? See, look at it. No. So the change only will come here. We are given pi star 2px 1 electron, pi star 2py 1 electron. Then we are having one more extra. This is in the case of 16. One more extra means we will pair this. Look at it. Pi star 2px will have 2 electrons. Pi star 2py will have only 1 electron. Means what? This is also having 1 unpaired electron. Still paramagnetic. What about O2 2 minus totally 18? In this case, right, we will give pi star 2px first 1 electron. Then pi star 2py 1 electron. Still we will be having, this is the oxygen arrangement, right? Still we will have how many electrons? 2. Why? Because total count is 18. So we will give 1 electron here and 1 electron here again. So totally what do we see? There are no unpaired electrons left. In which case? O2 2 minus. O2 2 minus, right? There will be no unpaired electrons left. And you know what do we call this ion as? We will be calling it as what? The peroxide ion. So what do we call it as? Peroxide ion. So O2 2 minus, right? What do we call it as? Peroxide ion. So peroxide ion will be having diamagnetic nature. Why? Because it has got no unpaired electrons. It has got no unpaired electrons. Okay, so this is how we will be able to understand the magnetic nature based upon the molecular orbital theory. So when the molecular orbitals are having unpaired electrons, means those molecules or ions will have paramagnetic nature. When there are no unpaired electrons, means it will be what? Diamagnetic nature. So this is about the molecular orbital theory, which explains some of the properties, like the magnetic properties and the idea of having a fractional bond order, which were not conclusively explained by the previous theories.